The first signs came without warning. In research laboratories across the globe, scientists noticed peculiar changes in cellular structures. Dr. J. Park stood by the microscope, his breath catching in his throat as he watched the alien pathogen spread through human tissue samples. It began in small clusters: a hospital in Seoul, a medical center in New York, a research facility in Lagos. Patients arrived with symptoms that defied conventional understanding. Their bodies seemed to be fighting something invisible, something engineered with precision beyond human comprehension. The pathogen moved like a ghost through human populations. It was quiet, calculated, and seemingly unstoppable. Governments tried to contain the spread, but the invisible enemy slipped through quarantine lines like water through fingers. Communication networks buzzed with panic, while medical teams worked around the clock. Hospitals became war zones of a different kind. Doctors in protective gear moved between beds filled with patients experiencing strange transformations. Skin would momentarily change color, cellular structures would fluctuate, and then stabilize in ways that made no scientific sense. Some patients died within hours, while others showed remarkable resistance. Dr. Park gathered his team in a secure research facility. Computer screens displayed global infection maps, each red dot representing another point of invasion. The alien weapon was intelligent, it adapted, it learned, it attacked with surgical precision. But something was wrong, something the creators had not anticipated. "Look at the genetic markers," Park muttered, pointing to complex molecular diagrams. His research assistant, a young woman named Lisa, leaned closer. The pathogen was designed to target specific genetic sequences, but human DNA was proving more complex than expected. In military command centers, strategic meetings turned from offensive planning to desperate survival discussions. Captain Hyun, Kim reviewed satellite images and infection reports. The weapon was spreading faster than any previous biological threat, but the casualty rates were inconsistent. Some communities showed near-total elimination, while others demonstrated unexplained resistance. Researchers discovered the first hint of humanity's unexpected defense. Human genetic diversity, long considered a complex but random biological feature, was proving to be an incredible shield. Where one genetic line might collapse, another would stand firm. The alien weapon had calculated a precise attack, but human genetic variation was its unexpected weakness. Small communities began to emerge as unexpected safe zones. Remote villages, regions with high genetic mixing, and populations with diverse genetic backgrounds showed remarkable resilience. Scientists started mapping these areas, trying to understand the underlying mechanism of survival. The alien strategy was clear: total elimination through a targeted biological approach. But they had overlooked a fundamental aspect of human existence: adaptability. Each infection, each interaction with human cellular structures provided new information. The human body was learning, changing, resisting. Dr. Park worked for days without sleep. Coffee cups accumulated, genetic sequences scrolled across multiple screens, and the weight of potential human extinction pressed down on his shoulders. But beneath the fear, something else emerged: a glimmer of hope, of unexpected resistance. Communication networks began sharing survival stories. A family in Brazil where only one member showed symptoms. A research team in Japan that survived. Complete exposure. Military units that demonstrated inexplicable immunity. The patterns were emerging, subtle but significant. Global scientific communities, once divided by competition and national interests, now worked as a single organism. Research stations shared data in real time. Genetic libraries were opened. Computational resources combined. The human response was becoming as adaptable as the threat itself. Captain Kim's military intelligence teams tracked the pathogen's spread, but with each passing hour, they noticed something changing. The infection rates were no longer following the predicted mathematical models. Something was happening at a cellular level that defied conventional understanding. As night fell across different time zones, researchers like Dr. Park continued their relentless work. The microscope became a window into a battlefield where humanity's future was being determined, not by weapons, not by political strategies, but by the complex, beautiful randomness of human genetic diversity. The silent invasion had begun. But humanity was far from defeated. The world changed in weeks. Research stations transformed into high-security fortresses of hope. Dr. Yoon Choi stood by her laboratory window, watching emergency vehicles move through the city streets. Her team had been working non-stop, analyzing every cellular mutation. Blood. Samples from survivors became the most valuable resource on the planet. Each drop contained potential answers. The pathogen had expected uniform human genetic response but found a complex network of biological defenses instead. Some people's immune systems were fighting back in ways no scientist had ever predicted. Commander Sung Lee coordinated global research efforts from a reinforced communications center. Networks that once competed now shared information within seconds. Universities, research institutions, and medical centers became a single interconnected organism, fighting the invisible enemy. Genetic databases were uploaded and analyzed by thousands of computers simultaneously. The alien weapon had a specific targeting mechanism, but human genetic diversity created unexpected interference. Where one genetic sequence would collapse, another would create a natural defense barrier. Dr. Choi discovered something remarkable. Human immune systems weren't just defending, they were learning. Each interaction with the pathogen created cellular memory. The body was converting the attack into information, developing micro-adaptations faster than the weapon could evolve. Military. Research teams began collecting survival data. Regions with mixed genetic populations showed higher resistance. Communities with extensive genetic mixing demonstrated remarkable recovery rates. The weapon that was designed for precise elimination was encountering an unexpected complexity. Young. Researchers worked alongside veterans, their computer screens filled with scrolling genetic sequences. They mapped infection patterns, tracked cellular mutations, and developed preliminary counter-strategies. Every hour brought new discoveries, new hope. The human response was becoming organic, adaptive. Where traditional medical approaches would have failed, this collective intelligence was creating something new. Information traveled faster than the pathogen. Scientists in Tokyo would share a discovery that would be analyzed in Sao Paulo within minutes. Survival stories spread through communication networks, a family where only one member showed symptoms, a research team that survived complete exposure, military units demonstrating unexplained immunity. These were not just stories. They were biological blueprints of resistance. Dr. Choi's team developed the first experimental tracking method for cellular adaptation. They could now watch in real time how human cells responded to the pathogen. It was like watching a complex dance, attack and counterattack happening at microscopic levels. Commander Lee understood this was more than a medical challenge. This was a test of human collective intelligence. Military strategies gave way to scientific collaboration. National boundaries became meaningless in the face of a threat that didn't recognize human divisions. Genetic laboratories worked around the clock. Computer systems processed massive amounts of data. Each infected individual became a potential source of information. The human body was revealing capabilities that no previous medical model had predicted. The pathogen had been designed with mathematical precision, but mathematical precision couldn't account for human randomness. Each genetic line responded differently. Some collapsed, some resisted, some transformed. This unpredictability became humanity's greatest weapon. Research stations shared preliminary findings. The alien weapon was complex, but human genetic diversity was proving to be even more sophisticated. Where the pathogen expected uniformity, it found a living, breathing, constantly changing network of biological defense mechanisms. Dr. Choi noticed something extraordinary in her latest analysis. Human cells weren't just defending. They were converting the pathogen's genetic information into potential immunity. It was as if the human body was learning a new language of survival with each interaction. Communication networks buzzed with cautious optimism. The initial panic was transforming into a collective, focused response. Researchers who had never spoken to each other were now working as a single, global team. The threat had created something unexpected: total human unity. As days turned into weeks, the picture became clearer. The alien weapon had made a fundamental miscalculation about human biology. Diversity wasn't a weakness, it was the most powerful defense mechanism imaginable. The adaptive response had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The laboratory hummed with nervous energy. Researcher Yoon Kwon stared at the genetic sequence, understanding something profound was about to change. Humanity was no longer just defending, they were preparing to fight back. Genetic modification became the new battlefield. Where traditional medicine would have taken years, desperate times compressed research into weeks. The alien pathogen had provided something unexpected, a complete genetic blueprint of its own destruction. Captain Hyun Kim watched the transformation happen. Military strategies shifted from defensive positions to potential counterattacks. The weapon that was designed to eliminate humans was now being studied as a potential tool of human defense. Scientists discovered the pathogen's critical weakness. Its genetic structure was precisely engineered, which meant it was also predictably vulnerable. Human genetic diversity had created natural randomness that the weapon couldn't anticipate. Now they would use its own precision against it. Laboratories around the world began developing experimental counteragents. Each research team took a different approach, but they shared information instantaneously. The global network of scientists had become a single adaptive intelligence fighting an invisible enemy. Yoon's team made the first breakthrough. They could not just neutralize the pathogen, but potentially redirect its genetic targeting. The weapon's complex mechanisms could be reprogrammed, transformed into something that could potentially attack its own creators. Emergency communication centers tracked the progress. Where panic had once ruled, a sense of calculated determination now emerged. Humanity was learning the language of genetic warfare, and they were learning fast. The alien monitoring systems detected something terrifying. Human technological acceleration was happening at an impossible rate. What was supposed to be a calculated elimination was transforming into a potential existential threat to the alien civilization. Genetic modification techniques developed rapidly. Researchers worked in shifts, their computers processing complex molecular interactions. They were no longer just defending. They were studying, learning, and preparing to strike back. Military strategists began integrating genetic research into potential offensive strategies. The pathogen's own design could be used as a template for a return attack. Each discovered mechanism became a potential weapon. Dr. J. Park's team created the first experimental genetic countersignal. It was more than a defense. It was a potential method of genetic communication and disruption. The weapon that was meant to kill was being transformed into a tool of potential communication and defense. Global research networks shared every discovery. A breakthrough in one laboratory would be analyzed and expanded upon by teams continents away. The speed of information sharing was faster than the pathogen's mutation rate. Yoon understood they were doing something unprecedented. They weren't just fighting a biological weapon, they were learning an entirely new form of warfare. Genetic modification was becoming a language of survival and potential counterattack. The alien civilization had expected a simple elimination strategy. They had calculated human vulnerability, predicted total collapse, but they had not anticipated human adaptability. The collective intelligence that could transform a weapon of destruction into a potential tool of defense. Experimental genetic treatments began showing promise. Communities that had been near total elimination now showed signs of recovery. The human body was not just resisting, it was learning, transforming, fighting back. Military communication channels buzzed with a new energy. The initial fear was transforming into calculated determination. Humanity was preparing not just to survive, but to demonstrate its unexpected capabilities. Research stations became fortresses of hope and potential counterattack. Each discovered genetic mechanism was a potential weapon. The pathogen had provided humanity with a complete blueprint of its own potential destruction. Captain Kim reviewed the latest reports. The tide was turning. What was meant to be a silent, precise elimination was transforming into a potential existential threat to the alien civilization. Humanity was proving to be something entirely unexpected. The tables were turning, and the alien civilization was about to learn a critical lesson about underestimating human potential. Humanity wasn't just going to survive. They were going to fight back. The first counterattack began silently. No massive explosions, no traditional warfare, just a precise genetic signal transmitted across millions of kilometers of space. Dr. Yun Choi watched the computer screens, her hands steady, her breath controlled. Genetic weapons are different from traditional weapons. They move like whispers, invisible and deadly. The human team had transformed the alien pathogen into something entirely unexpected. A return message coded in molecular language. Military communication centers tracked the transmission. What looked like random genetic sequences to an untrained eye was actually a carefully constructed message. Each molecular strand carried information, potential disruption, a biological challenge to the alien civilization. Captain Hyun Kim understood this was more than revenge. This was a demonstration of human capability. The weapon designed to eliminate humanity was now being used to communicate humanity's unexpected resilience. Research stations around the world held their breath. Computers processed complex genetic sequences faster than human minds could comprehend. The counterattack wasn't about destruction. It was about proving a point. Humanity would not be easily defeated. Yun Kwan's genetic modification team had done something unprecedented. They had not just neutralized the pathogen, but created a method to redirect its genetic targeting. The alien weapon would now become a tool of potential genetic communication and disruption. Alien monitoring systems detected the transmission. Initial readings suggested something impossible. The targeted elimination weapon was being transformed. Humanity was speaking in a language the aliens had never anticipated. Genetic adaptation. The first effects were subtle. Alien biological systems began experiencing unexpected mutations. Where they expected uniform response, they found complex adaptive interference. Human genetic diversity was proving to be a weapon more sophisticated than any technological device. Dr. J. Park reviewed the transmission protocols. Each genetic sequence was a carefully constructed message. Part warning, part demonstration, part challenge. Humanity was showing the alien civilization that they were not a simple target. Communication networks buzzed with controlled excitement. Military strategists and scientists worked together, understanding that this was more than a biological conflict. This was a demonstration of human potential, of collective intelligence. The counterattack moved through alien biological systems like a ghost. No massive destruction, no traditional warfare. Just precise, calculated genetic interference. The aliens had designed a weapon expecting uniform human response. They found something entirely different. Research teams tracked the transmission's progress. Complex molecular interactions happened faster than traditional communication methods. Humanity was speaking a language of survival, of unexpected adaptation. Commander Sung Lee coordinated the global response. What began as a potential extinction event was transforming into humanity's most sophisticated demonstration of resilience. Each genetic modification was a message: we are not your victims. Alien biological systems began experiencing unexpected disruptions. Cellular structures that were designed for precise elimination found themselves encountering interference they could not predict. Human genetic diversity was proving to be the most sophisticated defense mechanism. The counterattack wasn't about total destruction. It was about communication, about demonstrating capability. Humanity was showing the alien civilization that they had fundamentally misunderstood their target. Genetic laboratories became command centers. Researchers who were once considered theoretical scientists were now on the front lines of a conflict, beyond traditional understanding. They were writing a new chapter of human survival. Dr. Choi watched the transmission data. Each molecular sequence carried multiple layers of information. Part defense mechanism, part communication protocol, part potential threat. Humanity was speaking in a language of pure potential. The alien civilization began to comprehend the magnitude of their miscalculation. The weapon designed for elimination was being used against them. Humanity had not just survived, they had transformed the very tool meant for their destruction. Military communication centers detected the first signs of alien response: confusion, then fear, then a growing understanding. Humanity was not a simple target. They were an adaptive, resilient species that could turn destruction into opportunity. As the genetic transmission continued, one thing became clear: this was more than a counterattack. This was a message written in the language of molecular survival. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were rewriting the rules of conflict. The alien leadership watched in growing horror. Their perfect weapon, their calculated elimination strategy, was unraveling in ways they could not comprehend. Humanity had done more than survive. They had transformed the very tool of their potential destruction. Dr. Yoon Choi stood in the Global Command Center, her eyes reflecting the complex transmission maps. The genetic counterattack had revealed something profound about human existence. They were not a simple species to be categorized or eliminated. Communication networks across human settlements carried a strange mixture of tension and hope. What began as a potential extinction event had become a demonstration of human potential. The alien civilization was learning a critical lesson about underestimation. Commander Sung Lee reviewed the latest transmission data. Each genetic sequence carried multiple layers of information: defense, communication, potential threat. Humanity was speaking a language beyond traditional understanding. The alien monitoring systems detected complete strategic failure. Their weapon, designed with mathematical precision, had been transformed. Human genetic diversity had created something unexpected: a living, adaptive response that defied all predictive models. Dr. J. Park understood this was more than a biological conflict. This was an existential confrontation. Humanity had not just defended itself. They had demonstrated a capacity for adaptation that challenged fundamental assumptions about biological warfare. Genetic laboratories around the world tracked the ongoing transmission. Researchers who were once isolated now worked as a single, global intelligence. Each discovered molecular mechanism was a potential message to the alien civilization. Captain Yoon Kim watched the strategic maps. The counterattack was precise, calculated. No massive destruction, no traditional warfare. Just a sophisticated genetic communication that demonstrated humanity's unexpected capabilities. The alien leadership began to comprehend their critical mistake. They had viewed humanity as a uniform, predictable species. Instead, they found a complex network of genetic diversity, collective intelligence, and remarkable adaptability. Yoon Kwan's research team continued analyzing the genetic transmission. What looked like random molecular sequences to an untrained eye was actually a carefully constructed message. Humanity was not just surviving, they were communicating on a molecular level. Global communication networks shared a sense of cautious victory. The weapon designed to eliminate had been transformed into a demonstration of human potential. Each genetic sequence carried a message: we are not your victims. Alien biological systems experienced unprecedented disruptions. Cellular structures designed for precise elimination found themselves encountering interference they could not predict. Human genetic diversity was proving to be the most sophisticated defense mechanism. The existential reckoning was happening on multiple levels: biological, strategic, philosophical. The alien civilization was being forced to reconsider their fundamental understanding of adaptive intelligence. Dr. Choi noticed something extraordinary in the transmission data. Humanity was not just defending or counterattacking. They were learning, growing, transforming the very concept of biological conflict. Military strategists and scientists worked together, understanding that this was more than a technological confrontation. This was a demonstration of collective, human potential of a species that could turn potential destruction into an opportunity for growth. The alien leadership received the final transmission. It was not a declaration of war. It was a message of unexpected complexity. Humanity had taken their perfect weapon and transformed it into a communication of resilience. Commander Lee understood the profound nature of this moment. They had not just defended against a potential extinction. They had demonstrated a capacity for adaptation that challenged fundamental assumptions about biological intelligence. Research stations around the world celebrated with controlled excitement. The weapon that was meant to eliminate humanity had become a tool of demonstration, of communication, of unexpected potential. The alien civilization faced a critical choice: recognize humanity's unexpected capabilities or continue a conflict they were fundamentally unprepared to understand. Dr. Park looked at his team. They had done more than survive. They had rewritten the rules of biological conflict. Humanity was not a simple target. They were an adaptive, resilient species that could transform potential destruction into an opportunity for growth. As the final genetic transmission faded, one message became clear. Humanity wasn't built to die easy.